So this is part A of the Khoodeelaar television channel, broadcasting as dedicated to Baby Angel Geronimo, so-called Baby Angel Geronimo editions of the Khoodeelaar television channel. And this is the front page of the daily bribing Boris Johnson graph. The corrupt courier of the corrupt narrative of the liars. It's not the only one. There are more Fleet Street couriers of lies. There are more couriers of the agenda and the narrative of lying and liars. Then there are reporters of the truth of the criminality and the crimes of the regime fronted by Boris, the congenital liar Johnson. This daily bribing Boris Johnson graph has got on the front page a shameless, casually written headline without any quotation marks, and it's summarized part on the page 1 of the daily bribing Boris Johnson graph. It says German immigrants have been asked to be heavy goods vehicle drivers in an administrative glitch, they say. Expats received letters from Baroness Weir, the roads minister, imploring the Germans to get behind the wheel of delivery lorries. German HGV drivers were added to the database of potential HGV drivers because German driving licenses issued before 1997 allowed holders to drive anything up to 7.5-ton truck. Meanwhile, more than 100 soldiers will take to the roads to help deliver fuel from Monday. So the heading to this shameless lying piece is UK plea to Germans, drive our lorries. UK plea. Does it sound like Brexit taking back control? The main point being made by the daily bribing Boris Johnson graph on the front page item is Patel. Police must take harassment of women seriously. This is as dishonest as you could imagine. As dishonest, as much in denial, and as much unfit for purpose. Police must take harassment of women seriously. Well, one police who took harassment of women seriously was employed as a metropolitan policeman who plotted to do serious damage to women's safety. And then he pounced on Sarah Everard. He kidnapped her, he raped her, he murdered her, and then he burnt her body. So disfigured was Sarah Everard that her body could not be identified. And it was necessary to identify her by using her dental records. This is the agenda of the Conservative Party. It's not safeguarding women, protecting women, and this front page in the daily bribing Boris Johnson graph is the understatement of the decade, if not for the century. Sarah Everard was murdered by a policeman in post. So when Patel says police must take harassment of women seriously, what on earth does she mean? The police, as Cressida Dick, the current incumbent in the post of Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, who is the head of the police that had Wayne Couzens, the kidnapper, the rapist, the murderer, in the force. And there is no evidence that Boris Johnson, who is on record as having refused to apologize for inciting hatred against Muslim women, against Muslim women. Boris Johnson is in the post of Prime Minister. And he has failed. He's failed to say anything about the massacre of women massacre because it's more than 100 women massacred since Sarah Everard was kidnapped, raped, and murdered. What kind of junta allows that kind of massacre to take place? Without Fleet Street, actually making anything of this. So when we say diagnosis of Fleet Street, world exclusive diagnosis of Fleet Street, that is the kind of thing that we include. Fleet Street, the newspapers are devoid of telling the basic truth. And the basic truth is about serving policemen plotting to do crime and then doing the crime of kidnapped, rape, and murder, and worse. There is no sign that the Fleet Street so-called newspapers recognize the magnitude. And there is no sign that the members of parliament do that either. There is no sign that the so-called opposition, so-called leader in the House of Commons, Keir Starmer, recognizes that either. And we are not even talking about the other murder that has been in the news in the last 2 weeks, Sabina Nissa. And we have to say that there has been no significant statement by Sadiq Khan, who is the incumbent mayor at the expense of London. And Sadiq Khan has not stated in terms of policy, in terms of accountability, in terms of liability, in terms of responsibility, any link between the murder of Sarah Everard and the atmosphere of kind of emptiness that exists about the need to actively prevent and stop violence against women and murders and rapes against women. There is nothing, no cultural, there is no evidence that Sadiq Khan is doing anything to protect women. Well, Sadiq Khan should be doing everything to prevent crime and prevent violence and prevent, specifically in this context, the sexual violence against women. And there is no evidence that anyone in Fleet Street is even aware of the fact that Sadiq Khan owes a duty. And the Sadiq Khan has been failing his duty. Even after the wide-ranging protests against the police that followed the kidnap, rape, and murder of Sarajevo, Sadiq Khan has maintained his confidence. He has maintained his confidence in the police. There is no record that Sadiq Khan has lost any confidence in the Metropolitan Police. Think about that. Think about the hype that surrounds the election campaign for votes for a candidate, including the likes of Sadiq Khan. And he promises everything. And there is no evidence of any demand for accountability by Sadiq Khan, his regime, because Sadiq Khan is actually, allegedly, constitutionally, the head of the Metropolitan Police. So this is an introductory piece. There's an introductory piece of this edition A. We should definitely do other editions today. We didn't broadcast one on Friday. And we're going to go into the details in the next part, if not next parts. And there is this heading in FT Weekend on page 1, which says, Taliban confront reality. 30 million people to look after and no money to do it with. We shall go into the crisis that they are celebrating. The FT's heading shows a gloating kind of tendency that Taliban should be penalized. So we shall be talking more about that in the next part. And we shall be talking also about the lessons that are there in the behavior of the corrupt, criminally negligent, and cruel regime fronted by Boris Johnson. This is dark. This is the dark regime, the evil regime. And the fact that the BBC Question Time has again invited depraved DEFRA fronter George Injustice, the DNA criminal, shows that the BBC is in collusion with the evil. So we shall be talking more about all of that in the next part. This is a short introductory part A.